Amazonian reproduction explored. Wonder Woman is one of the most righteous and noble superheroes in the world of comics, and maybe even beyond the world of fiction. Her traits are often hailed as gifts that she has received from her mother Hippolyta and the race of Amazons of Themyscira, the Paradise Islands. But let me assure you, they are far from beacons of goodness. The island is home to super beautiful superhumans, right? So, how did Wonder Woman or any other Amazonian come into being? And if the women from the Amazon do in fact procreate, what happens to the sons of Themyscira? In this video, we will answer all the questions related to how the Amazonian women commit the darkest of crimes to reproduce and carry forward their lineage. But before that, we'll explore how the first ever Amazons were brought to life by Olympian goddesses. Get ready for an exciting video that will lasso the truth out of these fine, badass women. Oh, and we'll also explain how Wonder Woman was a child born out of adultery. So let's begin, shall we? But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a very small click for you, but for us, it means a whole heck of a lot. So thank you, and let's get it started.
Typical example of your sex.
I am...
A brief recap. Before we get into the details of how Amazons warm their beds, let's just spend a minute to understand who they are and where they came from. Well, there have been several different versions when it comes to the origin of the female warriors of Amazon, but I believe the New Earth version is the aptest one. So, the New Earth reality of the DC multiverse was basically the prime reality that the publication followed between the years 1986 and 2011. It started with Crisis on Infinite Earth story arc and ended with the Flashpoint story arc. Later, New Earth was sacrificed to give way to the Prime Earth reality. However, more on that one another time. For now, let's just focus on the Sisters of Blood and Shield, shall we? Known by different names to humanity, the Amazons of Themyscira are vaguely a race of immortal female warriors. As their name suggests, they belong to Themyscira, an island at the river of Thermodon's mouth in the Black Sea. The location is present in modern-day Turkey, but according to the comics, Themyscira was built by the Amazons themselves. However, according to the New Earth reality, Themyscira was a gift to the warrior ladies by the goddess Hestia. And 5 goddesses said, "Let there be female warriors." Much like the religious text states several reasons behind the creation of humanity, the creation of the Amazonian women also had some reasoning. Around 3,000 years ago, or in 1200 BC, the goddesses of Olympus desired to create an entire nation of female warriors who would spend their lives serving as messengers of justice and peace. These goddesses wanted their newest creation to spread their ideals in the world, making it a better place. However, these attempts were met with strong disagreement from male gods, especially the likes of Ares, the god of war. He couldn't just sit around while someone tried to bring peace into the world. That was against his very nature. When Hera, the consort of Zeus, resorted to doing nothing about the creation of this new nation, 5 other goddesses swung into action. Because Zeus did not give his consent, the goddess Artemis, Athena, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hestia met in the underworld upon the river Styx, and there they found the Cavern of Souls, an ancient object which housed the souls of all the women who had died due to the acts of violence by men. The goddesses then combined their strengths and powers to let the souls of these sorry women be reborn, but this time they were to have stronger physical bodies. However, they chose one special soul to be given more powers, and this transposed soul was to have a very special future purpose. Any guesses on who she might be? Don't worry, because we'll be getting to that in just a little bit. In the end, the goddesses reincarnated thousands of superhuman adult women using the souls from the Cavern of Souls and clay from a Greek lake that served as the physical bodies. The first woman to be reincarnated was Hippolyta, the queen of the warrior nation, whose people would be called the Amazonians. Interestingly, Hippolyta was the reincarnation of the first woman who was slain by the cruelty of a man. Many thousands of years ago, a caveman was banished from his tribe because he was mauled by a tiger. A woman offered him warmth and affection, but he killed her in a fit of rage. Hippolyta became the reincarnation of this woman. The second to be reincarnated was Antiope, who was to be the second in command and the commander of the Amazonian forces. The Olympian goddesses intended the Amazonians to dedicate their lives to serve proselytic purposes, meaning that they would reinvigorate the human faith in the Olympian gods and rekindle the worship of gods in a world that had become lost and barbaric. For this purpose, the goddesses gave the Amazons various gifts. They received hunting skills from Artemis, inner and outer beauty from Aphrodite, plentiful harvest and rich lands from Demeter, warm homes from Hestia, and wisdom from Athena. But, as been the nature of humans on Earth, no peaceful society lives to see a peaceful end. The Amazonians of Themyscira were attacked by Herculean forces, and their eternal tryst with struggle and hatred for men thus began. But this was all about how the first Amazonians were created as a result of an act of God. And now, let's cut to the chase and explore the dark things that these super ladies do for the sake of making sweet little babies. The dark truth behind Amazonian reproduction. Shakespeare once said, "Were kisses all the joys in bed, one woman would another wed." But Amazons do not see men as a means to pleasure, but only as a necessity for reproduction. In Wonder Woman Volume 4, Issue number 7, DC Comics were kind enough to give us a sneak peek into how exactly the Amazonians reproduced after they were first created by the 5 Olympian goddesses. This particular issue takes place in Florence, Italy, where Wonder Woman, Hermes, and Lennox visit Eros, the god of love, desire, and lust. Wonder Woman has lost someone to Hades, the god of the dead and the king of the underworld. He has taken Zola, the human form of the goddess Athena. Now Wonder Woman will have to fight Hades, but she cannot do so without getting herself a bunch of special weapons that could only be made by the Olympian god of fire, smithing, and metallurgy, Hephaestus. It turns out that Wonder Woman and Hephaestus were connected by a past thread. In other words, her lasso was created by the smith god. But while they were still talking, something terrifying interrupted them. From the molten pit where Hephaestus's workers were hard at work, rose a reptilian lava monster that killed several of the workers. It was evident that Hell was not pleased with the idea of Hephaestus helping Wonder Woman, and hence the foul abomination had been sent. Hephaestus attacked the monster from Hell but got caught in its mouth, which is when Wonder Woman used her wits to overturn an enormous bucket of water on the monster. As she anticipated, the lava left the monster's body cooled and hardened. Then she struck it with her lasso to slay the beast once and for all. After the battle, Wonder Woman is shocked to discover that Hephaestus's workers were not something that he had created, but living men. What Eros had to say next shocked her even more. He claimed that these men were all brothers. Brothers of hers, actually. All the male children of the Amazons. The Truth Queen was taken aback. Until now, she had thought that the Amazons were all women because of some type of divine intervention. Hephaestus then explains to Wonder Woman how the Amazons bring new ones into the world. So every 33 years, the Amazonians go to the deep waters of the high seas as pirates, but their raids do not seek gold and wealth, but a strange kind of booty. Most men at sea are away from their women, and if a booty call presents itself in the middle of a voyage, there is no resisting. It's pretty much a no-brainer. And mind you, these women are Amazons. Their beauty is legendary. But what starts as an act of lovemaking soon ends in their death as life is drained from them after their copulation. Once they get what they need, the Amazons return to Paradise Island and wait around for 9 months. At the end of this period, the birth of the daughters is celebrated, while that of the sons is mourned. Naturally, some mothers end up triumphant, but others not so much. It's kind of reminiscent of what happened to the Craster's son in Game of Thrones. The whittling leader used to give his boys away to the White Walkers while he kept the daughters to marry them. However, the Amazonian men did not face such horrific fates as the Craster's sons. The Amazons give their male children to Hephaestus in exchange for weapons and tools. So his workers are none other than the thousands of Wonder Woman's brothers who were shunned by their mothers. Their only crime? They were boys. But Hephaestus took them in, raised them as his own, and if it wasn't for him, these men would have been thrown to the tide to drown and die unloved. But the Smith god changed that fate. So, for all things that the Amazons seem to glorify, this side of their nature and lifestyle is pretty dark, even for DC's story arc. But this brings us to an important question. Why do the Amazons bear such hatred for men? The real reason why Amazons see men as objects of reproduction. In the first issue of the 2016 comics titled Wonder Woman Earth 1, we get to learn the real reason why the Amazons hated men and the world of men. After Hercules attacks the Amazons, he takes them captive, including Hippolyta, the queen. While he keeps the other women in cages, he chains Hippolyta up like a dog and manhandles her, even calling her his bitch. Hercules says some pretty derogatory things to her, like, obey your lord and master, and show your sisters how to behave when my soldiers arrive. Any adult can understand what he was really asking of Hippolyta and her female subjects. Nevertheless, Hippolyta bore his cruelty and prayed to Aphrodite for mercy and help. Hercules kept treating her like a pig in a pen, but she kept praying. She continued to pray day after day. Ultimately, her prayers were answered, and Aphrodite finally said, "No more than a man of mud and bone and blood and story is Hercules. Your stolen girdle alone protects from harm this mortal man. Reclaim it now. Waste not this gift." Hippolyta learns that Hercules had been able to overpower her because of the girdle that he stole from her. She knew what to do. She did play along with Hercules' games for a little bit, but just long enough to give him a taste of his own medicine. When he thinks that she has submitted to him, he asks her, "Tell us what Hercules has made you." And Hippolyta replies, "Hercules has made me patient." And then there was no stopping Hippolyta. Turning the chains that had shackled her into her weapons of freedom, she easily overpowered Hercules. She then goes on to free her sisters from their confinements and proclaims that the time had come for the men of Greece to face the wrath of women. Soon, warrior women had turned the place into a garden of blood and bones, but the Amazons did not choose this. They were forced to become killers. Hippolyta once again begged Aphrodite for another favor, and she prayed, "Let us retire forever from man's world. Let us draw an impenetrable veil around our affairs and prosper in peace." And as we already know, Aphrodite granted Hippolyta this wish. Furthermore, this loathing towards men found its way into several other comics. We already saw how Wonder Woman was aggrieved after learning that her brothers had been long abandoned by her Amazonian kin. After learning about these atrocities, Diana wanted to undo their sorry fates and brought them back to the Paradise Island in hopes that they could be closer to their sisters and mothers. And oh boy, was she wrong. It wasn't long before the sons of Themyscira arrived that Diana had to leave the island on Justice League business. And right after Diana left, the Amazons, under the leadership of Donna Troy, massacred the sons of Themyscira. Taking place at the end of issue 40 of the same comic series, the assault on the men was one of the most brutal and cold-blooded ones in the history of the Amazons. Later in issue 47, while Diana was on the hot trail of Cheetah, she came across one of the men named Anastasius. He told about the ordeal that he and his brothers had to face because of the Amazons. And although Diana literally shed tears of blood, it could not help the man with what he had suffered, going so far as to say that had he known about this sorry fate, he probably would have committed suicide. In a compelling set of words, Anastasius says, "Look at me. I have lost everything, my brother, my home, my livelihood, and you think an apology will make it better? Well, Anastasius, it won't." How was Wonder Woman born? Themyscira, Paradise Island, or the mythical home to the Amazons and Wonder Woman, is basically a place that houses super beauties and super soldiers. While it would be any man's dream to live on this island, men are banned from visiting the place. So much so that the island is guarded by a heavenly veil. But if women are the only ones who live on the island, how did they procreate? And how did Diana Prince come into existence? I mean, it's not like the Amazons were alien to how human reproductive systems work. And essentially, they were humans, albeit the fact that they were insanely strong and a work of goddesses. Now, since Amazons are essentially immortals, they do not need to have children. But then again, human weapons can give them deadly injuries. And this is probably why they need to bear children. Now, from the recent Wonder Woman standalone movies, it becomes clear that only Diana was the child to be born on the island, while the other ladies were created by gods. So how did she come to life? If we were to go by the various animated shows and a few comics, Diana Prince has several origins. In some, she was the daughter of Zeus, while in others, she was the daughter of Hades. However, all of these accounts had one commonality, which was more or less elaborated in the 2017 film Wonder Woman. As a child, Diana was fairly inquisitive, and it was difficult to quench her thirst for curiosity. However, her mother, Queen of Amazon Hippolyta, told Diana that she is the daughter of the island because she was born from clay. According to this highly mythologized version of her birth, Hippolyta says that she so desperately wanted a daughter that she went to the beach and created a baby out of clay. After this, she begged Zeus to fill the clay with life, and so he did. But is that what really happened? In reality, Hippolyta and Zeus once shared a bed, and that might very well have been what led to Diana Prince being born. In the movie, Ares reveals this fact to Diana, something that's been corroborated in other various comics. So, Zeus was a highly immoral man who cheated relentlessly on Hera with other women, one of them being Hippolyta. However, he and Hippolyta knew that Hera, the queen of Olympus, would have not spared Diana if her real identity had come forward. So Diana's parents concocted a story according to which she was born from clay and by Zeus's so-called blessing. Some blessing that was. This explains why Diana was hailed as the God Killer. Her lineage is both Amazonian and godly. No matter how noble and righteous the Amazons project themselves to be, they have committed far too many heinous crimes. Nothing in the world of superheroes is entirely white or black. Even the most righteous of heroes often find themselves treading in gray areas. And even Wonder Woman is not the saint that people think she is. In Flashpoint Paradox, she fought a war for world dominance and led her Amazons to do some pretty nasty things. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today, and if you liked our content, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. And in the meantime, have a good one and be safe, and we shall see you next time. Thank you, everybody.
They came to the conclusion that men are essential for procreation, but when it comes to pleasure, unnecessary.